Ayun na nga, it's another Sunday there sa Pilipinas, and here in America it's also Sunday morning. But here we go. Here we are with another episode of WTF. So, without further ado, let me introduce to you my co-host and my co-host in this episode and every other episode ng WTF. Of course, it's Momney. Momney, happy
Hello!
Sunday.
Palm Sunday, everyone! O, di ba?
Palm Sunday
Palm
nga pala.
Palm Sunday ngayon. Kaya
Oo nga.
talagang, start na ng Holy Week.
Oo.
Makabait ba tayo? Parang hirap-hirap, no?
Oo nga eh.
No.
Si Pam, nandito sa Kumu si Pam. Pam, we
Hi
miss
there,
you.
Pam! How are you?
My gosh. Magpapakawit ba kami? Kasi yung question ko eh. Is it this year?
Mabait?
Oo, sabi ko, is it this year na mababait tayo or next year na?
Gusto niyo ba kaming pahirapan? Kung gusto niyo kaming pahirapan, sabihin niyo magpakabait kami. Hello, Teacher Agnes. Ayan.
Pero mabait naman po kami.
Yes, oo naman.
Huwag lang kakalabanin.
Ay! Alam niyo yan. Hello muna sa lahat. Sa community, hello there Kumu, hello there Facebook, hello there YouTube. So, hello sa inyo. I hope everyone is good. And let's have this holy week of inaayos pa namin kung magkakaroon kami ng prayer ulit as we do every year sa Pamilya Saranggola, every Good Friday.
I think we should kasi makasalanan tayo this year.
Hala, Dok, hindi kulang ang isang araw. Hindi na siya isang araw sa kasalanan ng Saranggola.
I think we should.
So, hello there, Kumari ko there on Facebook. Inday, hello there, Rosario.
Pakishare naman po yung stream natin dito ngayon.
Yes, please share. Maganda yung topic for this Sunday. Kasi I think all of us has to practice this. Every one of us, has to know this, understand this topic that we will be discussing kasi napaka-importante nitong bagay na to.
True, lalo.
Ano nga ba to, Doc Eddie?
Ang conversation ngayon is really dear and dear to my heart. Yeah, we're talking about limitations.
Limitations, ayan. Yes. Maganda. Please share the stream. Share this stream kasi akala lang natin this is a very light and something that we can easily handle, no? But what is limitations talaga? Masyado siyang malawak. Depende sa kung saan natin dadalhin talaga. Diba? Kung anong limitations ang kinakailangan sa buhay natin. But let's talk about limitations in the why should we be aware? Why should we be aware?
Yeah,
about our limitations.
We often hear yung mga sinasabi ng mga tao, you are pushing my limits, diba? Pero ano ba yung limits? Yun ang muna. Like, you have to understand kung ano ang limitation, the definition. Sandali ha, sinishare ko kasi yung stream.
Tulungan niyo na kami mag-share ng stream. And thank you pala sa every Sunday namin nakakasama dito na talaga naman. And also nanonood din ng playback sa YouTube and sa Facebook. Thank you very much. Please follow Doc Eddie sa YouTube. Eddie Posadas 15. May 15 din ba yung YouTube mo, Doc Eddie?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, Eddie Posadas 15 at YouTube. Tignan nyo din doon. So, mapapanood nyo din kung naka-prime kayo sa YouTube at wala kayong advertisement. Mas masarap manood doon. Panoorin nyo si Doc Eddie.
Hi, ayan. Ghost Masarap. Ang taray ng pangalan nito, Ghost Masarap.
Talaga ba?
Ghost Masarap.
Paano niya kaya mapapatunayan yan?
Anyway, so going back to limitation, ayun na nga. I think, kasi sa buhay, like for me especially, in my recent experiences lately, my limits have been been pushed. So I have to understand and remind myself, okay, these are your limitations. Pero, ano nga ba ang limitations and why is it important for us to understand what limitations is? Diba? So, ang question ko doon, Momney, ano nga ba ang limitations sa'yo?
Alam ko na yun ang itatanong. Saglit na hindi ako makalagin sa Kumu, tapos hindi ko maalala yung number ko. Kaya yung nasa Kumu, mamaya na tayo magkita, hello muna. Nasa Kumu. Sorry, hindi ko mabuksan ang Kumu ko ngayon. Ayun. Actually, Doc Ed, when I check, kasi alam ko na po yan. So, bago kami mag-start talaga, nag-research na rin ako. Dahil alam ko, tatanungin sa akin ni Doc Ed yung limitations. So, we can always find many actually, hindi naman many meanings. But, there are things na, kasi nung unang sinabi ni Doc Ed, let's talk about limitations, math yung pumasok sa utak ko. The limits, no? Hello there, Momon. Momon is watching. Hello there.
Hi, Momon.
But still, whether ito mapa-math man siya, mapa about, the limitations per se it is and how it's being defined. No? Pero parang, it will always boil down sa hanggang saan lang.
Yes.
We should always, be aware. We should always be grounded.
Tama.
Ng reality na meron tayong boundary. Meron tayong hanggang saan lang. And lahat meron yan.
Of course. Kasi tao lang tayo. So, hindi naman yung over and over again na we're getting taken advantage of or we don't know how far our limits can take us. Kasi we all have a breaking point, diba? Paano kung hindi mo alam yung limits mo and hindi mo alam kung bakit ka nagkakaganon, yung anger is either heightening up or yung pratika na heartbroken sa mga mararapok dyan, diba?
So, kamay na mararapok. Kaya bakit kila yan tumaas sa'yo?
Ang hirap kasi nakalimutan ko, nasa stream yun pala tayo, hindi ako pwede mag-blap-blap. So, paano ko ano yun to? Pag may question na ganyan. Makalain. Okay pa.
Makalain nila, nag-blap-blap ka na talaga. No, but, tama, Doc, as you were saying.
Yeah. So, that's my thing. Like, we probably should understand what limits are. So, nag-research tayo and actually, it's hard to find materials about limitations because I think people have different perspectives and different definition of what they are. So, pumunta na lang tayo sa dictionary. So, yun. Limitations are limiting conditions, restrictive weakness, lack of capacity, inability, or handicap. Pero when it comes to personal limitation, ang sabi nga nila, personal limitations are most often described as the limits that a person has in regards to people and environment around them, such as boundaries. So very similar to boundaries, and I think that's very important. That's the key word here. It's in regards to people and environment around them, such as boundaries. Ano ba ang mga boundaries natin? Ano ba yung limits natin? Diba? And I think a long time ago at WTF, we had an episode about boundaries and why boundaries are important for us. So, going back to that, ayun na nga. Ayun na po si Haruna. Thank you, Haruna. Nagsusugal siya sa Kumu. Hopefully you win.
Hi, Haru.
For example, sa Kumu, right? There's a new feature sa Kumu na you drop a certain gift and then it's up to you, or you might be lucky, you risk doing that and then you see if you win something back. Yun ang limits. What are our limitation para hindi tayo mag-go overboard sa gastos, sa pagta-top up, sa pag-ano. Yun ang doon. So that's one thing of limitation.
That's true. Madami actually nung nag-pandemic, di ba? There were so many limitations.
Oh, yeah.
So many limitations that sometimes, it is so hard to really adjust at first kasi we are not used of being limited. We are not used of being restricted.
We had freedom.
Yes, because we enjoyed the freedom of going out, meeting people. But then, all of a sudden, in a snap, oops, you have the limitation of going out, limitation of not even meeting your family.
Yeah.
Friends, family na lang. So,
no interaction.
And dealing with limitations sometimes would end up, would end up, how do you say it? Yung discomfort. Not because limitations are not just something that we like to Minsan, naiinis tayo kasi we are limited to do as such, no?
Yeah, and I like the way that you said, tag dito, yung discomfort. I think yun yung una sigurong mga early signs na, okay, are my limitations getting, pushed na, di ba? You don't start feeling comfortable anymore. You start feeling maybe some sort of maladaptive thinking, yung hindi na tama yung nagpapaisip mo, or you're feeling sadness, you're feeling something other than what you normally feel.
Yeah.
So, those are things that you're, okay, are my limits getting pushed na? Diba? Like your example about yung sa quarantine, diba? Bigla-bigla naalis lahat ng mga natin, ang mga freedom natin. And that's pushing our limits because we're like, I don't know what my limit is about when being alone, when being lonely or having the feeling of being lonely. Diba? Some people didn't have anybody during the pandemic. Sila lang mag-isa, especially sa Manila or the Philippines.
Yes. Yung mga na-stuck, no? Sa mga lugar na hindi sila makauwi.
Yeah, like people who are overseas that didn't have family around them, not knowing what's going to happen because COVID back then was very unpredictable. We don't know what was happening.
We don't know. Yeah.
So in that case, the world was pushing our limits. Kaya ang daming nag-enter ng anxiety, nag-enter ng depression, diba? The whole world was grieving what was going on. And, especially when you lose people because of COVID then, limitation mo talaga.
And also, Doc Ed, siguro ang dami, no? When we talk about kasi limitations, madami siya talagang sanga-sanga na pwede nating i-discuss. But I think majority of us would agree that there are certain limitations. Yun nga, yung hindi yung discomfort. And second is, yung talagang hanggang dun ka na lang na hindi siya about yung freedom but yung pasensya.
Yes.
Yung understanding. You would sometimes really wala. Tapos na. Hanggang dun ka na lang. And that is, I think, one thing na dapat maliwanag natin na i-communicate. Not only to our friends, especially kahit sa family members. Hanggang saan ang hangganan?
Yes.
Diba?
Saan ang tipping point natin, di ba?
Yes.
I'm not gonna try to say the word kasi alam ko mabulol ako sa yung hangganan, yung sinasabi ni Mami. yun ang tipping point natin. Kasi for most of us, when people push us to our limits, yung tipping point na yun, pag na-tip na tayo doon, wala na, galit na tayo.
Sige nga, tanungin natin sila. Angel, hello there. Tanungin nga natin ang mga nandyan sa sa Kumu, and nandyan sa Facebook. Kayo hanggang saan yung sabihin that's enough. No? Yung limitations ko, hanggang dito lang ang kaya ko ibigay. Hanggang dito lang ang pasensya ko. Sige nga, kayo nga, can you think of hanggang saan yung hangganan nyo? For mothers, for example, like me, when we talk about our children, I think kahit sabihin namin hanggang dito ka na lang, we would always find ways, no? Especially when our children are in need. But, still, meron pa ring hangganan. Ang pasensya, o hangganan, o sometimes titiisin mo para matuto, di ba? Hanggang dun lang ang gagawin mo na pagtulong kasi kailangan na nilang matuto rin sa buhay. So, still, kahit yung nanay, kahit ang nanay, kung mahal mo talaga ang anak ko, I could be just speaking maybe for myself. Kung ako, mahal ko ang mga anak ko, but may hangganan. Pero hindi hangganan yung pagmamahal. Love will always be there. But there would always be, hanggang dito lang ako kasi kailangan ikaw na, you continue your life. Go. True. Plunge. Di ba? Talagang go there. Sabi ni Mick, pumangkin to, ni Ed, I make condolences talaga sa family.
I make condolences ka. I heard what happened. Yeah, my prayers for you and your family, Mick and Kuya Ed.
It's brother.
Once you stop, that's it. Thank you, Wandilan.
Yun, to me, once you stop, thank you, Wandilan. Wandilan, bakit ako wala?
Kasi wala ka sa Kumu.
Wandilan, meron ako sa Facebook. Sabi ni Mick, once you stop, that's it. Ay, nakakatakot naman yun, ha, Mick. Yung bigla ka na lang,
And
higit,
yun
di ba?
siguro for Mick, maybe that's his tipping point. 'Di ba? Na-tip na yung ano niya, yung kaya
Oo. Or
kinakaya niya.
kagaya ni Mick, no? Yung biglang, ayoko na. Uy, nakakatakot yung gano'n Parang takot ako sa mga ganun
Yes.
tao. Kasi baka mamaya
I
akala ko,
too.
hindi, hindi, pagbibigyan pa ako yan, palang, tapos na.
Yun na nga. Like, people take advantage of you if you don't have limits.
Oh,
People take
yes.
advantage of you if you don't let them know
Lalo na
ito
kung
na.
mabait ka talaga, yung naraabuso yung bait.
Mm-mm.
Kasi Mick,
Yeah.
napakabait yung bata.
See. Saka, ayun yung, I like the way that you said, Momni, para matuto sila. And that's the thing. Like, if you don't have limits, diba, inaabuso ka na, hindi sila matututo. They think that, they can always just keep doing that over and over again. Right? Let's talk about relationships. When people I'm sure people probably experience having arguments or having their tipping points when it comes to their partners and their loved ones. Kasi yung partner mo, they push their limits na. They did something that you didn't like and you probably told them over and over again. You told them not to do that, but they kept doing it and they pushed your limits. And sometimes yun ang cause ng cause ng breakup nyo or cause ng mga away nyo.
Broken relationships.
Yeah, and that's why it's always good to set those boundaries because you need to know where your limits are. Diba?
So, ibig sabihin, Doc Eddie, before mo mai-communicate ng tama, I think I stand corrected on this. Before mo mai-communicate ng tama sa kapwa mo, limitations mo, you yourself should know.
Understand what your limitations are.
Understand what your limitations are. Hi, Eden! So, di ba, kailangan ikaw muna sa sarili mo, alam mo hanggang saan ka lang.
Oo.
Para hindi ka rin maabuso.
Mami
Kailangan alam mo kung ano ang limitasyon mo para hindi ka rin baka bigla kang magalit. Hi, Philip. Yung bigla ka rin magalit, ano yung magawa mo?
Exactly. Like, hindi nila alam kung ano yung capabilities mo pag nagalit ka na talaga. And we don't want to get to that.
Sa sarili mo dun, Doc Eddie, nakakatakot din yun. That you don't know your limitations. I mean, you know your limitations, but you are not aware that you are nearing your limit.
Or you learn the hard way what your limitations are.
Yung boundary mo. You should set your boundary. This is, diba, itong mga gato. Hi, Ed, and si Ed,
And Mommy Susan said hello to you, Mommy.
Mommy Susan, hello. Sorry, wala po ako sa Kumu. Pinakita ko na. I tried to pilit sa Kumu. Tingnan nyo.
Hindi siya mapasok. Thank you, Mommy Susan.
Ay, tinatanong po yung ko, hindi ko maalala yung
Kuya Ed, hello, and condolences, prayers to you and your family. Yeah. Thank you, Mommy Susan. Pero yung ko dito, your limits, let's use an example of when people, what we hear in the news sometimes, diba? People already hurt people and it causes people's lives already. We don't know the story and most likely is because somebody pushed their limits. Paano nila nagawa yung ginagawa nila? Para makasakit ng ibang tao kasi hindi nila alam yung limits. Diba?
True. Hindi aware din. Maaaring hindi aware ng mismong tao. And Doc Eddie, with all the things that yung sa experience mo, hindi naman natin pwedeng sabihin lagi. Hindi natin i-quote sa experiences mo. But dealing with, with different kind of people who suffer yung mental health din natin. Affected dyan Yung how to put it in a nicer term. Pero yung nakaka-apekto talaga siya sa pag-iisip ng tao when a person would be pushed sa, you would be pushed to your limits. But paano mo tutulungan tong mga taong to na, alam mo yun, na yung pikon na, yung galit na, na, di ba, yung andun na sila sa edge talaga ng limitation nila of understanding people, of, of really giving in yung kaya mo. Parang naubos ka na. How do you think, what is the best thing to do? Pag umabot ka na sa gano'n na, ayan ka na, malapit ka na sa limit mo, or ayun na, nandun ka na.
I think you have to make a decision on how to remove those toxic people out if it's already getting too much for you. Diba? And that's the saddest truth. Pero, oftentimes people, kasi I think people are good-hearted by trait or, naturally. And people often just, want to understand, want to empathize, want to make things all right for the most part, diba? Yun ang mga, I think that's what people do. Pero sometimes nga, you have people that they server tag dito yung mga relationships, they
It's a
they
suffer.
it suffers yung friendship, they stop, they end the relationship, kind of drifted away because of that, because they just, your limits have been pushed, hindi mo na alam kung paano mo makokontrol, so that's the unfortunate part.
Yan.
Hi.
Kasi maganda, alam mo, ang galing ng pagkakasabi din ni Joanna. Joanna, hello. From Canada si Joanna, by the way.
Oh, hello,
From
Canada.
Bata ko yun, pero from Kandubang na nasa Canada din yung family. Sabi niya, I never say my limitations, but I change my ways if it felt I am pushed to my limit. You can only control yourself. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a very good point, Joanna. Kasi I think oftentimes the people who push your limits have probably done it to other people also. Like, they push other people's limits na hindi nila alam kung ano. And I think ang ano dyan is they're probably expecting a certain reaction from you.
Yeah.
Pero pag hindi mo binigay yung reaction, yung kasi yung may gagawin ka, tapos papalampasin lang. Thank you, Kay. Papalampasin mo lang, because you're like, oh, okay, that's shame on me.
Okay lang yan.
Okay lang yan. Pero every time they do it over and over again, they're starting to push your limits, but they're trying to probably get the same reaction that they got from you the first time. Yung pinalampasan mo lang. Pero when your limits are pushed, they're expecting, pero kung hindi mo bigay yung same reaction na yun, magtataka sila. Diba? And I think that's where you might be coming from, Joanna, is you can only control stuff. Yeah. You can either get angry, you can either burst out, or you can just say, you know what, I'm done with it. Like, nah, let's part ways na. Yeah. That's the sad part.
That is the sad part. As what I'm about to say. That's the sad part of really having your limit already. Reaching your limit. Totoo naman yung sinabi ni Joanna na you can really,
Shady,
yung nakakontrol lang talaga natin is our reaction. But sometimes, may mga, kagaya ng mga bata, di ba? Yung mga bata, kahapon I was in a family affair and nagkukwento yung sister-in-law ko about sa apo niya. Meron siyang apo na napaka, of course, terrible twos and, di ba, mga terrible twos and threes kids, no? Yung mahilig din sa halaman yung sister-in-law ko. Yung pipitasin ng bata yung dahon ng halaman, pero nakatingin sa kanya, tapos nakangiti, di ba?
Those are children trying to see where their limits are.
Yes. So may mga bata na ganun. At siguro tayo, sa atin din, ganun din tayo. Meron din tayong ugaling ganun. We'll be pinching people, no? Bit by bit. Just to test ano yung limit nila. Yeah. And on the other way around, kung tayo naman yung nagpo-provoke, no? Tayo naman yung talagang nag-aasar maari would be the term, no? Para malaman natin yung reaction ng mga kapwa. And I think yung pushing people to their limit is, for me, somehow, as example natin, parang childish.
Yeah. It's immature. It's very manipulative if you try if you keep pushing people's limits. Diba? It is it's narcissistic. So don't do that, guys. Like, kung hindi nyo man, for example, I have to keep thinking, hindi real talk ang episode na to. This is WTF. So,
what the fact? But guys, yun ang una naming title before, real talk. Nagulan kami doon ni Doc Eddie before. But somehow, ngayon medyo, but what the fact still talks about factual things, Doc Eddie. So, let the facts.
Diba? Noon, we had people who were part of our group or our family sa Saranggola, and they decided to leave, and then I think Via, I think the story there is that there's some personalities out there na they try to meddle doon sa pagiging leader or paano, yung pabida sila parate. And I think na when you portray yourself as another type of entity, yun ang sabihin natin. Pero hindi ka yun. And then you're pushing limits. Like, behind people's back, you're creating a different group. Behind people's back, you're saying something different than what you're telling the people that you supposedly trust you. Until, na-realize ko na, hold on, hindi tama to. Anong ginagawa tong tao na to? Like, and then it's not like we faltered in letting them know or talking to them about the situation. Kasi iba yung sinasabi. Until to the point na yung tipping point natin na push over na. Kaya nga, unfortunately for them, along with alcohol and being on vacation and being in the pool, na-relax yung utak natin, ayun, natalakan sila. Tapos, wala na. That was a part of my limits na
oh my gosh.
nakita ng
na nangyari. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And mind you guys, very close kami sa Saranggola. Never ako nag-alis ng mga tao, technically. That was the first time that somebody pushed me to like, you know what? I don't even want to talk about this anymore kasi I know na I'm not in the wrong.
Hindi ko kwento ko. Teka lang. Hindi pwede. Hindi. Ganito kasi yun, guys. Chinika na. Si Doc Eddie, first time nanipa sa GC ng member. No, but yun na nga yung limitations. Talking about limitations din. Okay, Doc Eddie, napaka-pasensyoso nito. Ako maikli lang. Itong kaikli lang sa pasensyo ko. Gigil na ako. Pero si Doc Ed, chill lang si Doc Ed. Always is always.
Because for me, it's like, we're adults here. Let's have a mature conversation about it. I asked them privately kung ano na nangyari or whatever, and then I think one of my biggest pet peeve is when people, and then this is again part of my boundaries limitations also, is when people do not take accountability for their actions, right? Instead of taking accountability for yourself, you pass your blame to other people. That's a pet peeve for me. That's a limitation because you're not only trying to put trying to make the situation correct. You're also pushing people, or you're trying to dinadami mo yung ibang tao na walang kinalaman.
Walang kinalalaman.
Yes.
That is, I think, yun yung limitation.
It's part of my limits. Yeah, like don't do that because it's not fair.
Yes.
For them.
Pero may entry ang Tito Ed.
Ay, Kuya Ed. Pero kapag mahal mo ng isang tao, walang limits. Yes, walang limit sa pagmamahal. Pero dun sa mga actions or dun sa mga behaviors, may limits tayo. Diba?
Yeah. I think, lahat tayo, ako ang limit ko yata is, pag yung nawala na yung tiwala ko, parang, yun na yung tipping point ko. Pag yung, yung feeling of betrayal na paramdam mo sa akin.
Ay.
Dapat yun.
Ay.
Doon na. Yun na yung limit ko. Sabi niya, kahit pasensya, walang limit. Pag mahal mo, siguro, siguro pag mahal mo, walang limit ang pasensya. Siguro, it would be a different topic to discuss, no? When we talk about love, oh my gosh, pag yaan ang topic, sumasabog ang comment, Kasi when we define love, no? There's only one perfect love. And totoo yun, no? Walang limit.
Sabi ni Kuya, love is patient, yes, because love is blind.
Teka, eto, may sagot si Teacher Agnes. Eto na. Ed, get ready. Help me, Teacher Agnes. Doc Eddie, go. Read it, please.
Sa relationship, dapat may limitations, lalo na kung alam mong masasaktan ka. Hindi porket mahal mo ng isang tao, magpapakatanga ka ng sobra. Oh my gosh. Ito lang ang answer ko dyan.
Naghang po si Doc Eddie. Deliberate hanging. Deliberate love.
I cannot agree with you even more, Miss Agnes, kasi I think I mentioned in previous episodes before, okay lang maging tanga sa relationship. Pero hindi pwedeng maging bobo. You know, there's I mean, I am myself, I can say both kay Kuya Ed's side and kay Miss Agnes kasi there were some times back then na talagang nagpakatanga tayo sa mga relationships, especially yung mga younger people, di ba? Oftentimes napapakatanga sila sa relationship and they have a lot of patience or whatever into relationship until their limits are pushed. Hanggang kailan ba yun? Laging may sakit ang pagmamahal given na yun. Pero hindi naman kailangan sobrang sakit. Yeah.
Are we talking about Doc Eddie? Doc Eddie yata topic natin ngayon, Char.
Bakit parati kayong ganyan?
Ate Lee, hello.
Mami Susan, welcome back.
No, but I think nakakatawa yung sagutan sa Facebook comments ngayon. but I think, ako for me, kay Eddie, alam kong ibang level of love ang tinatap, ang sinasabi ni Ed, no?
Yes.
Love knows no
unconditional love. Thank you, Mami Susan.
But saglit lang, dito muna tayo sa pang nilalang, pang human being. Teka, bakit hindi pa tayo t-shirt ko? Na-OC ako. Sorry, na-OC ako. Parang, di ba, dito muna lang tayo sa how do you say this? Earthly bound, no? Kasi, iba-iba. Pag si Eden nagsalita, talagang ibang boundaries ang alam natin when Ed talks. But for us being human, I mean, I think, for me, I believe kay Teacher Agnes that we really have to have limits in all aspects.
To have limitation and boundaries.
Yeah, kasi for the sake of our health, physically, mentally, emotionally, lahat ng na health. I mean, we need limitations kasi kahit nga pag-inom limitations tayo. Hindi kakayanin ng atay natin. Lagi tayong mag-aalcohol. Hello, Evelor! Diba? So, kahit magmamahal, we should put limit then. Kasi, and that should be a good limit. Diba?
Yes.
It should always be good. Hello there, classmate Chella. It should always be a good limit. So, Doc Eddie, sabi nga natin, the topic about limitations could really be so big, no?
It's broad, very, yeah.
So many topics. Pero siguro, before, almost half na tayo ng time. Pero, focus lang siguro tayo when we talk about relationships, siguro. Yung sinasabi nga ni Teacher Agnes, no? Relationships, when we talk about maybe kahit friendship or love relationship, the limitations, paano nga ba natin masaset ang limitations between the people that we love romantically and the friends that we have, that we deal with.
I think that's a healthy conversation that couples should have. Yung mga experience, kung ano yung mga learned, yung mga values nila and ano yung mga learned limitations nila. Kasi that's important para maiwasan yung mga pagtatampo, maiwasan yung mga arguments. Mind you, arguments and disagreements are healthy in a relationship kasi that's when you figure out how both of you can move past yun, how to go about understanding your limits. Healthy mga yun. Pero I think in Kuya Ed's situation, he has a lot of patience. Mapag-alaga siya sa relationship. Diba? And I saw that personally kasi ang bait-bait talaga ni Kuya Ed. Kahit na hating gabi na, whatever time it is, he would go out of his way to do things for the people that he loved. Diba? Pero yung limitations that we're talking about is that people or your partner should know what your limits are so they can respect that. Kasi yun ang importante is that for them to respect it and for them to know na hindi ko pwedeng gawin yan kasi mababasusan yung minamahal ko.
And we should communicate that. Hi, Myra! Sabi ni Ate Lee, hi Ate Lee from Los Baños. magtira ka ng kahit konti para sa sarili mo. Never forget yourself. That is a form of limitation also. Diba? Whether sa taong mahal natin o sa mga friends natin, Doc Eddie, magtira ka ng kahit konti sa sarili mo para hindi mo nalilimutan that you also need things that you give.
So, ito na, Kuya Ed. Okay, here, hold on. Let me prepare myself for the paragraph.
Ay, nako. Go!
According to grade balance, you're talking of a different type of kind of limitations. All bad things or habits need to be limited. In fact, they needed to get rid of. But if you're living from a point of view of love, whether friendly or romantically, walang limit, especially about the weakness of them. But if you're living from the point of view of love, whether friendly or romantically, walang limit.
Pero, yan nga yung nasabi ko kanina, I think wala ka pa. When I talk about me being a mother, I love my kids, you know that.
Yes.
Totally. But,
unconditional love yun.
Yeah. Yes, unconditional love yun. And I don't need to prove that. I know that inside me. Pero, meron akong limit in terms of, for example, yun yung, kanina yung explain ko, there are things that I have to stop for them to go on. I have to stop, for example, doing things for them because they have to learn doing things for their own. To learn also, to balance things, to weigh things, which is which, practice the things that you've said, that they have to experience that also for themselves. So, the love is there, but there are limitations on how to do this kind of, how to practice it when in terms to pag-practical na, right?
Yes.
Wisdom yan, di yan limitation.
Ito na naman, guys. Pag si Ma'am Ni saka si Kuya Ed na ako yung parang, mag-aaway na naman si Mama at Daddy.
What the fuck? para sa nasa kumu, nahirap po talaga kapag minsan gusto ko nga sana tulog na lang po siya pag nag-show kami dito.
Kasi yung isang episode na yun, the one before last week, yung, oh my gosh, what was that? Kung envy versus jealousy. Diyos ko po, 1 week na conversation yun po sa amin. Kung paano itatakal yun. Kasi yung dalawa, si Mami sa kasi Kuya Ed, oh my gosh, may pa-research
labasan
na.
Ng ebidensya. Labasan ng ebidensya. Sabi nga niya, versus yes, ayun yung topic that time.
Oh my gosh.
Kaya nga ayaw natin, Ed, alam natin na, hello Sir Mar, alam natin yung when we talk about, the higher level of, kaya lang, syempre, we have to, human experience muna tayo. Human experience tayo. We have to get the feel of paano natin na i-communicate sa mga nanonood sa atin o sa mga kasama natin dito sa stream. Kasi syempre, ibang level yan.
For example, if your loved one pushes the limit, okay, sa again, we're talking about yung mga marupok, di ba? Kung hindi mo isa-set yung limit mo, and parating mo na lang hinaayaan yung to push your limits and your boundaries, then that person is probably gonna go, I can get away with anything in this relationship. So how far am I willing to go to get away with it? Maybe they're gonna get away with it by, being a cheater. I mean, sa mga experience na may ibang tao dyan, hindi ko alam kung sino, hindi lang pala ikaw yung kinakausap, ang dami pala, kinakausap.
Alam nyo, si Doc Eddie, pag rumorolyo po mata niyan, kulang na lang po, i-spell po ng mata niya kung sino yung gusto niyang sabihin.
Oo, hindi natin alam. Buong app pa lang kinakausap niya. Kaya mahirap, guys. You have to set your limits. And thank you, Mommy Susan. Diba? Kaya importante talaga to know your limits and your boundaries for you to have, or for you to set what you need to be respected. And that's in all different aspects of relationship, whether it be platonic, maybe it be romantic, or whatever it may be.
And for those who push other people's limit, don't be surprised if one day the person that you thought would never end, giving you all the benefits, giving you all the understanding, giving you all the love that this humanity can give. Don't be surprised if one day you will wake up and that person is not willing, to give everything to you anymore.
Tama.
Kasi syempre, may mga tao na after ilang beses masaktan, magigising sa katotohanan na you are not really giving importance to this person, or you are not really loving this person, and they will realize that. And they will just, andun na sila pala, nakatayo na sila on their limit. And akala mo, hindi, konting ano ko lang dyan, bibigay na yan, okay na ulit kami. No. Hindi mo alam, umabot na siya sa limit niya. So, yung chance mo of having, a good relationship with this person, wala na. Kasi, nagsawa na yung tao sa'yo. Hindi nagsawa sa'yo, pero nagsawa na magpasensya, nagsawa na umintindi.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Mommy, when you love somebody, or when you're in a relationship, you give that person value. You give that person worth kasi mahal mo sila, 'di ba? Pero when they keep on pushing your limits until to the day na yung value na yun bumababa. 'Di ba? And then suddenly you get to the point where that person feels indifferent na. Wala na siyang pake. And your value is not there anymore. Diba? But ikaw, ini-expect mo na nandun pa rin yung na yun. Kasi that's what you're used to. Pero you already pushed your limits. And where is that gonna, where are you gonna end up then? Sa ibang bansa, sasabihin mo wala kang kinakausap.
Tago natin sa pangalan. Tago mo natin
Joke lang, please.
Nagkaya ko. Actually, ito, ang pangalan po nun.
Yan ang tinatawag natin. We are pulling a Dan JB Calderon. Huh?
Sabi ni Ed, you surround saglit. Para makibasa na rin kayo. You surround yourself with people you love and care. Yung mga pasaway na nipupush yung limit mo, give them a warning. Then kapag uulitin ba yon, bitawan mo na. Pag inulit, ayun.
Yeah. Actually, that's what we were talking about earlier to Kuya Ed. Like, you have to
inform them.
You have to let them know. And oftentimes people do let them know because you start getting into arguments. Hi, Joe Francisco, welcome to stream.
Ay, si Monette andito, kapatid niya youngest sister ni Papsi, ni Tito Ed, ayan.
Hi.
Sabi niya, di ba si Monette, sabi niya, grade ba balance, di siguro para sa magkakontra kayo ni Monette. Magkasama sila ngayon. Uy, Monette, condolence. Love.
Yeah, Kuya Ed, and to your family, condolences for you guys and prayers. Pero yun nga, like you said, see, kaya Kuya Ed, based on this sa sinabi mo na to, meron kang limitations.
Back to you. Kasi nga, you just have to let them know.
Diba?
Parang si Doc yan, si Monette. Parang si Doc daw yan. Parang pareho daw kayo ni Monette. Meron ulit sinabi si Teacher Agnes. Kasiyahan ng bawat isa ang umibig. Pero, alamin ang limitasyon. Si Doc Eddie naiyak sa sinabi ko, teacher. Kasiyahan ng bawat isa ang umibig, pero alamin ang limitasyon. Minsan, di maganda ang puso lamang. Dapat gamitin din ng utak upang di maging talunan sa huli.
Yes.
Bakit yun lang yung nasabi mo, Doc Eddie?
Ang lalim kasi ng Tagalog mo, Mama Agnes.
Hindi, tama naman yun. It's a joy to love.
Yes.
Yan, Doc Eddie ha. It's a joy to love. Pero talagang we should know our limits kasi it's not good at all. Talaga tin-translate ko sa'yo. Filipino yung lesson mo. Mag-aaral ka. No, but natama si Teacher Agnes kasi pag puro puso talaga, kalimitan, at the end, di ba, tayo yung talunan because hindi natin binalanse. No? We should always have our heart, we should always be attached to the emotions and, the values and all. But
you should have good balance.
Yeah, but still we have to think, ano ba yung hanggang saan lang dapat?
Tama.
Dahil at the end Pero sinabi ni Ed, parang si Doc yung simulat. Bakit? Sige nga, paliwanag mo. Sabi ni Ed, kahit mineral, nang minahal mo, ayusin mo ang nag-automatic, nag-autocorrect. Kahit nang minahal mo ng totoo, di ka talunan. Love never fails. Siya ang talo.
Sandali, let's read that. Kahit iniwan ng minahal mo ang totoo, di ka talunan. Love never fails. True. Siya ang talo. Kasi, for the situation ng isang kaalaman, binigay yung pagmamahal sa isang tao, di ba? Pero yung isang tao, hindi niya respeto.
Yeah. Hindi pinahalagahan.
Pinahalagaan. Yun. Ano man yung sinabi ni Mommy. So, yun. Tag dito. Kaya nga, it's their loss. It's just very true.
Yeah, it's their loss.
It's their loss because they did not respect your boundaries and your limits. Diba? So, hopefully, it's a learning process.
Kasi sinasabi ni Agnes, ikaw ang talunan. Si Ed naman, hindi ka talo. Sila ang talo. Ano kapag 1.5 million yun eh. Natalo ka sa 1.5 million. Dok, edi nag-aang ka.
Ha?
Paano yun? Natalo ka lang I mean, kidding aside, siguro may iba kasi pag yung siguro yung values nyo hindi pareho. Hindi kayo magkakaintindihan dyan. So siguro in all relationships, all should be laid. Everything should be laid. Truths about you, truths about the other person, your limitations together, di ba? Hanggang saan lang, at least maging truthful.
Yeah.
That is the key, Doctor. To know the limitations, we have to be truthful to ourselves. We should understand ano yung limitations natin, yung hanggang saan ang kaya nating ibigay. And then we make it a point na maintindihan din ng kasama natin, ng partner natin into whatever, into a relationship or into whatever, no? Kung ano man ang pagpa-partner niya. Na maintindihan niya rin na hanggang din lang yung limitations niya. At kailangan din, di ba, sumalubong. Para naman hindi
meet halfway and you have to compromise. Hindi lang parati ikaw na nagbibigay, and hindi mo naiintindihan yung tag dito kung ano yung talagang limit mo. And that, I think that's one good thing about, or that's the best part about being in a relationship, is understanding yourself more and learning something from it. So if you guys got anything from this episode, just learn your limits and learn to communicate your limits to your partners.
Ang good, this is a good reminder.
Always remember, meron din limitation yung other party. Yes. So, yun nga, yung balance in the relationship. Diba? Pero, there's so much more we can talk about when it comes to limitations.
Boundaries and limitations na actually, Doc Eddie. This is a good topic. And minsan binabrush aside natin to Kasi nga, we don't want to offend others. One thing. We don't want to make others feel yung uncomfortable. In as much as possible, tayo, uncomfy na tayo. Diba?
Yeah. Or the fear of losing them. Diba? So, gagawin mo lahat.
Yeah, we still give into other people's capricho. But, sometimes we really have to make our limitations, make our line clear. Para mas klaro at walang ma-offend. Lesson, humanap ka ng unli.
Humanap ka ng unli. Kaya nga guys, kung nasa Quezon City po kayo, CCYG po, masarap doon kumain. Unlimited, samgyup, ang sarap-sarap ng pagkain doon. Favorite ng mga anak.
Dapat nagyan natin yan!
Favorite ng mga anak ni Favorite ng mga anak ni Ma'am Nian. My gosh.
Kumain
Ay hindi po kami ang nalugi doon sa Binaya doon. Ang restaurant po ang nalugi. Kasi ang lakas ng kumain.
Magsama-sama ba naman dalawa ko anak na lalaki? Isang Marino at saka isang nasa Philippine Marines. Ewan ko naman.
Sa dami nilang in-order, my gosh. Ako yung sabi ko, talaga ba? Kaya pa?
Yes.
So,
I think that, ang dami nating na-tackle. I mean, this is, reality. Kaya nga po what the fact and title ng stream namin ito is that we should always be attached to our reality. And these are the things that sometimes akala natin maliit na bagay. Pero it does affect us big time. Kasi nagugulat na lang tayo, may nagawa na tayong hindi maganda dahil umabot tayo sa limitasyon natin na kahit sa sarili natin, hindi natin akalain na hanggang dun lang pala tayo. So let's always have this reality check. Na hanggang saan ba yung kaya kong ibigay? Hanggang saan lang ba ako? Because hindi yun kahinaan. Hindi yun pagkabawas ng pagkatao natin. It's actually would help us be better if we know our boundaries, if we know our limits, and that we can deal with it and we can communicate with other people na, teka lang, tapos na ako, hanggang dito lang ako. And para hindi na lang din sila nagugulat na, wala na, naubos ka na.
Yes. So anyway, our hour's about to be done, Momni. Another great episode here, Kahit na akala namin di po kami magigising kanina, ako, kasi sobrang pagod. Pero
sobrang pagod! Ako galing pang Corona.
Oo. Diba? But congratulations on a successful baby shower. So,
yes! Yes, kasi hindi ko na-share yung picture dito. Yes. Congratulations to my daughter, Frida, and Jonathan. Ayan.
Yes.
Daddy ng kanyang baby. Soon to be. I would be a grandma of 3. O, diba? Nakalain nyo yun.
From 0 to 3.
From 0 to 3. Everybody will be born this year. So, hooray to these blessings. Waiting talaga sa mga
pero alam mo, Mami, I think for what the fact, we're in that point na, kasi, ang nakikita ko dito, people are really into yung mga controversial topic. So I think for me, if it's okay with you, let's go back to some previous topics that we've talked about that are very controversial and bring them back. Kasi this is a new set of audience din eh.
Of audience. And madaming nagre-regular. Teacher Agnes is always there.
Yes. And thank you so much. And I encourage all of you to keep on letting people know about WTF. And yeah, we'll bring back some of the topics that when we first started, even back to Real Talk, ang dami namin conversation na talagang heated ang mga tao. So let's start bringing them back slowly and see how this new group of people react to them and what other knowledge we can get from them.
True. Ang daming magagandang topic talaga. Ulitin natin lang just with the, just to spread also awareness of the things that we talked before. Situations, sometimes mental health issues also that we should be aware of kasi sometimes baka hindi natin alam. Meron din tayo.
Yes.
So that we would be aware and we would be cautious also. So that we won't be giving, other people hard time.
Tama. But nonetheless, it is Holy Week this coming week, and hopefully you guys spend some quality time with your family. And again, if you guys are in Tagaytay or want to do something with your family, please visit Cafe Sarangola sa Santa Rosa, Tagaytay Road. And if you mention WTF, nanonood po kami doon, we're an avid audience, we will give you 10% off in your whole bill.
Nakakainis wala ako doon kung may hinayang.
Yes.
Sabihin niyo lang po, we're watching What the Fact of Doc Eddie and Momni. Naku, automatic 10%.
Yes.
So yun naman.
And there's a menu that is that is Lenten friendly. Kaya nga tag dito. Punta lang po kayo doon and let us know and how you enjoy. This is our treat for you for being avid audience for us. Diba?
That's so nice. Naku, dapat pala na-announce natin yun kanina kaagad, Doc Eddie, para agad-agad pumunta na agad kayo sa Tagaytay.
Tama. Pero enjoy this week with your family and do what you need to fulfill your spiritual pillar. So, yun ang ano.
For community, please wait for Pamilya Saranggola Lenten edition again. So we will be praying together.
Oo, pagdadasal namin natin isa't isa.
Pagdasal natin isa't isa at matindi-tindi po to sa sama na ugali po namin. No, kidding aside. No. It's really something that we should always, ponder and, reflect on the passion of Christ.
True lalu.
Okay, Doc Ariel. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you again next week for another episode of WTF.
Bye.
Yay! Diyos ko po.